Hey, Raptor Squad, Raptor Nation, people watching. I am here today with John.
With me! I'm your cameraman today, slash question asker, slash impromptu background comments.
Because everybody needs one of those. Anyway, getting on to the focus of our video today, we are talking about inside corners for trim, specifically a technique called coping. So not the kind of coping when you have something hard or bad happen, but it's important to know how to do that too. Today we're talking about coping our trim, which essentially is cutting out this inside edge so that it can fit nice and snug against your other piece of trim. So let's go look at one that we've already done just to kind of give you a visual of what I'm talking about, inside trim. So here we have a nicely coped and already caulked inside trim corner. Back to our table. One strategy for doing an inside corner would be to cut 45 angled edges on both sides of trim. And in theory, that works great, and in some instances will work fine. But it's not uncommon for your walls to not be a exact 90 degree. So should that happen, here we are with our 45 cut edges, but if one of our walls is slightly off, we're left with a larger gap than we would like. And it's true, just as on any corner, you would still be able to caulk that, but it's just gonna take a lot more time and material. So if we...
Ooh, and also, it doesn't look as good. Even if you do caulk it afterwards, there still will be like a weird flat spot in your corner.
True, true. And we are all about looks here. So we are going to go through the process of coping a piece of trim. To start, just like putting on any piece of trim, we need to go measure our wall. All right, here we are at our demo wall for this and one of our last pieces of trim in this house. So we'll take from the inside edge of this trim all the way over to the wall, actually. So we're looking at 41 3/4. So we'll go with that. 41 3/4. Remember that. All right, so I know I measured, and now I know this piece is definitely 41 3/4. So I'm actually going to start with the coping side. Since we're meeting our right side of our trim is the area that needs to be coped, we're gonna set it up to where my 45 degree angle will cut out this piece right here. So I have my saw set 45, make sure it's exactly there. Get that set down, move this guy back, and we'll cut this piece. So you may be wondering, I thought we weren't cutting a 45. Well, this actually is handy because it gives us the line that we're going to cut along. So just to kind of emphasize that, we have our cut line is this white line. So just to kind of help you see and myself. Now, another little trick I came up with, as far as I know, I'm sure other people do it too, but since this is essentially a straight line up to here, instead of using my coping saw for all of that, I actually just strategically and carefully put it back on my normal saw. So we'll flip this around.
And this only works if your baseboard's like ours and it's mostly flat on one side and a little detail on the top. Some people, if you use a smaller baseboard, kind of like this guy right here, this trick isn't gonna help you at all.
Yeah. For further, way too many curves going on to do this for this kind. But in our instance, it works and saves a little time. So here, bring that saw down, make sure it's right on that line. We don't want it to be over. So get it lined up.
What angle is your saw blade at?
So I actually have it set still curving back in a little bit, not completely up and down. I use just roughly a 20 degree. I don't really think it matters too much, but we want to cut back and in so that we don't end up having anything that would cause the two pieces of wood to not fit smoothly. So we want that front edge to basically be out there on its own. Set. All right, so as we're jumping in here, we've already talked about one of our tools, obviously being our large saw.
You got this.
Drop saw?
Yeah, drop saw, miter saw.
Okay.
It has a lot of names.
It does, I feel like it does. Another tool we're going to have is just our clamp so that we can stabilize this board so it doesn't move around a lot while we are coping. So we get that guy on there. Handy pencil, we always want to have that. And then the star of our video being our coping saw, because you can't cope without this guy. So, we already have our line on there.
Interruption. Question.
Yes.
What way do the teeth face? And does it matter?
So as far as we determined, it doesn't really matter. You will be using an up and down motion either way. So it kind of depends on how you like to hold your handle. So if you want to be above going this way, the only thing to know is make note of the direction your teeth are going so you know when you're actually cutting and when you're not. But you can situate your blade to cut up or down.
What do you do with yours?
I have mine cutting on the downstroke.
Okay.
So, or I guess it's actually on, I hold it this way. So just to make that confusing for you guys. I hold it this way so it's on my pull as opposed to my push. So we'll get that in there. So now, again, this may not work for everyone, but for us, I already have that line started so I can just follow along there. We took a momentary pause to get some light for you all. So back to cutting along my design edge now. So you want to be as slow as you need to and as careful.
So then when you're cutting it, you're just holding your saw so is that same 20-degree angle inwards?
So yes, you want to cut at a little bit of a back angle. So this is your sharp edge, essentially. Also, as much as possible, we want to use our full length of the blade, not just like short little choppy cuts, but actually pull all the way up and down. That said, these areas it gets a little trickier. Next little handy tool will be our file, because as you can tell, I still have a few little chunks that we want to knock down. So looks pretty good from here. Since we can, we'll go ahead and go see how that fits with the coat. All right, so let's go ahead and see how this fits in our corner. So we'll set that up in there. Get this here. Line up against there. All right, so, I mean, really, compared to the other corner that we demoed where we had the really large gap, obviously this is better, but I think this is a great example of real life in that even with our coping, it's not quite 100% because a variety of reasons, but most likely in this instance, our other piece of trim might just be bowing out a little bit at the bottom. So you'll note it's hitting down here, and then we're having a little bit of a gap up here. So I'm actually going to take it back to the table, file down a little bit more of that, bring it back and see if I can get it to fit even tighter. Okay. All right, so I got it filed to a place that I feel pleased with, especially now that bottom line like matches up with the other one. So we're good to go there. And as often as possible, if we don't have to measure, but we can have our material here and actually use the place that it's going to be as kind of a measuring tool, it's going to fit way better than if I try to take my tape measure that out, then go measure it on the material. There's just a lot more room for error. So here I actually have my corner snug like I want it. I can make note of where this piece of trim is on my piece of trim. Get that down just a little bit there so we know. And now we can go cut it on our saw. All right, and before I cut this, as I've learned the hard way, you always want to double check your saw setting before making your new cut. So we'll double check. I do want 0 degrees to have just a nice straight cut, and I will readjust this guy to make a straight cut too.
So all of your planes are back to 0.
Back to 0, yes. All right, let's go see how it looks. Like a glove. All right, guys, all that's left to do now is nail that sucker in and we're good to go. Well, thanks for hanging out with us and learning how to cope. If you have any questions, comments, don't hesitate to leave them below. Like the video, give us some feedback, we'd love to hear. Also, any of the materials that we used in this video, links and information will be below for you to check out in case you wanted to purchase those or check into them yourself. Anything else, John?
Nope, that is everything.